Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cali Veil channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. What we have here is a failure to do business in other countries. Chinese businesses in African countries. Boy, oh boy. It's about to be fire, heat, and everything else. Let's see what's going on in the African countries. Or should I just say the UN in general? Whoa.
Around Christmas this year, violent mobs rampaged through Maputo, the capital of Mozambique. Chinese-owned supermarkets were the first to suffer. An armored vehicle, originally provided by China to help maintain stability, was hijacked and used to ram open the gates of Chinese shops. The two-story metal shutters crashed down with sharp screams and frenzied curses filling the air. Store after store was ransacked.
Whoa.
Everything in sight.
Are those HVAC units? What the hell? Oh man, that's how you know it's getting serious. They made it all the way up to the roof and back down. Is that success?
From rice to televisions, sound systems to general goods were looted. In just a few hours, several large Chinese supermarkets in the city center, with inventory worth millions of yuan, were completely emptied. The looting didn't stop there. Shops were set on fire, with thick smoke billowing from the scenes captured in videos.
Damn, and those are shacks too to begin with. Damn. See, y'all don't know how lucky you are to be here in America for my American viewers. Because a lot of you guys are debt free and you want to live this freelance lifestyle in other countries. You want to live like a king. But see, these are some of the things that you're going to have to deal with when you want to live the expat life. So yeah, we know the cost of living sucks in America, but we pay those prices with good reason. So then we don't have to deal with shit like this.
The China-Mozambique Agricultural Technology Center, part of an official cooperation project, was also vandalized. Protesters claimed it symbolized corrupt deals and destroyed whatever they could. If it could be torn down or burned, they did it. Their goal was to humiliate the current Mozambican government. Whether there are masterminds or conspiracies fueling the violence, it remains unclear. But one thing is certain: anti-Chinese sentiment has spread, and the government forces were unable to control the situation. In the first few days, the riots were concentrated in major cities like Maputo, but by December 27, the violence had spread to surrounding towns. More and more areas were caught in the chaos of looting, arson, and violence. In remote areas, police forces were already understaffed and poorly equipped. Now, officers could only defend police stations and had no capacity to patrol. As a result, once peaceful towns descended.
Policia! I'll say this. I thought black people in those African countries were more civilized than the black Americans here in the United States. But now, as I look at this, they ain't no better than the niggas over here. Yeah, I said it. I said it. Unsubscribe. I don't give a shit.
Into disaster. By the time the government realized the severity of the situation, troops were hastily deployed. But even the military struggled to deal with the masked mobile riders. Criminal gangs.
Of course they struggle, because their military ain't as strong as the U.S. military. If we do that shit out here, they'll shoot us on sight. And most liberal communities, they might put up with it for like maybe a day or two, but after the third, fourth day, they're gonna shoot your ass. So if they come out here doing this shit, like this is something that they'll do in like Oakland, Floyd, oh shit, I forgot his name. The guy that was stood on until he passed out and died. George Floyd. Yeah. That's...
Gang seized the opportunity, looting supplies and setting factories ablaze under the banner of anti-government protests. One group even stormed a prison, freeing 150 inmates by force.
Damn.
The trigger for these riots was Mozambique's recent elections. The ruling Mozambique Democratic Socialist Party, Frelimo, pulled out all the stops to maintain its grip on power. Allegations of backroom deals and electoral fraud were rampant. On December 23rd, Mozambique's Constitutional Council officially announced that Frelimo's candidate, Daniel Chapo, won with 65% of the vote. This ensured the long-standing ruling party, in power for half a century, would continue to govern. But the announcement was immediately met with widespread skepticism. It was obvious to many that the results were questionable. Opposition candidate Vanicio Mondlane was the first to protest. He outright rejected the official results, presenting his team's vote counts as evidence that he was the legitimate winner. The European Union Observer Mission also weighed in, reporting they had witnessed irregularities during the counting process and unjustified changes to results at polling stations. Mondlane responded forcefully, declaring he would hold his own inauguration next month. In the TikTok live stream, he even directly appealed to incoming U.S. President Trump, requesting international intervention. The tension is noticeable. One could even feel it through the screen. Mondlane's confidence is not unfounded. The Election Commission's report is riddled with inconsistencies. Fraud was blatant, with vote counts manually altered in pencil. It's as if the authorities believed the entire nation wouldn't notice. Mondlane's supporters erupted, launching the largest and most intense anti-government protests since Mozambique's independence. The demonstrations quickly spiraled out of control. In Maputo alone, 237 stores were looted, with over 100 belonging to Chinese owners.
And see, what's going to happen is when people are doing things like this in their countries, you have to understand this is going to make other businesses not want to do business in your country. You're just making it harder for your country to get these good access to goods, whatever it may be. So, I mean, if you think this is really going to benefit anybody, it's not going to benefit you or the suppliers. You're just making things worse for everybody else by looting.
Chinese aid projects and businesses were also targeted, seen as political accomplices and ransacked. Local businesses have been completely paralyzed. In Chibuto, Gaza province, a Chinese-owned supermarket was looted simply because of rumors that the owner was close to the mayor, marking it as a political accomplice. Another Chinese tourism project linked to the president, Felipe Nyusi, was smashed to pieces by rioters. The situation has escalated to extremes. Some interpret it as local forces resisting a pro-China government, while others see it as the people's long-standing resentment towards the corrupt ruling party finally finding an outlet. At its core, the Mozambique Frelimo Party has roots in communism. When it was founded in 1962, the Soviet Union and China supplied weapons, trained soldiers, and even taught them how to organize and spread propaganda. After Mozambique gained independence from Portuguese rule in 1975, Frelimo took power, modeling itself after the Soviet Union by modeling a socialist state, implementing land reforms, nationalizing businesses, and enforcing a planned economy. However, the collapse of the Soviet Union left them without external support, forcing Mozambique to abandon communism in 1994 in favor of multi-party democracy and a market economy. Despite this, Frelimo's authoritarian nature persisted. It monopolized political power and became deeply entrenched in corruption. Today, electoral chaos is a continuation of this complex history, while public discontent and resistance represent decades of accumulated frustration erupting over electoral fraud. Considering Mozambique's current economic struggles, despite being rich in resources like gemstones, natural gas, and precious timber, ordinary people can barely afford to eat. Public infrastructure is crumbling, inflation is high, unemployment is widespread, and yet Chinese businesses are seen working hand in hand with government officials to quietly siphon off the country's wealth. Opposition parties have seized on this issue, accusing Chinese investments of propping up the corrupt government, directing protesters' anger towards Chinese.
Now tell me why that KFC looks like it's in perfect condition. That KFC is the best building that I've seen on this entire video. Far as a business. Well, maybe it's because it's a chain, an international chain. I've always heard KFC in other countries are better than America's KFCs, which is interesting to me. But I'm surprised how most of these big name businesses want to do business in these countries with the crumbling infrastructure. It's just like the buildings in India. They're just going to crumble. because they're not maintaining the structure or the infrastructure. Look, there's trash all over the place. There's flood, whatever.
businesses. Some research institutions have revealed that Chinese investments in major projects in Cabo Delgado province and Maputo have enriched officials, while the poor remain destitute. Widespread resentment towards the wealthy has fueled a wave of anti-Chinese violence, spiraling out of control. Mobs swarm Chinese warehouses like locusts, taking everything they carry, regardless of its value. Before leaving, they set fires, driven by a twisted sense of retribution.
That wall really says Turbo V8, V9, whatever. I don't know if they're trying to rep a gang or what, but it don't look too good. The whole building's destroyed. Whatever.
Born from hopelessness and despair. People are left asking, why are Chinese businesses being targeted in Mozambique? The answer lies in how many Chinese people live there.
Look like they're getting along just fine right there. They're getting along with the boss. But behind closed doors is probably a different story.
Often running large supermarkets, mining operations, and tourism ventures. At first, their lives were comfortable, and their businesses thrived through close relationships with local officials. Bribes and backdoor deals made permits and licenses easy to obtain. But what angered locals the most was the timber trade. Year after year, unchecked deforestation has led to the illegal export of timber to China, worth $23 million annually. The scale of deforestation could cover thousands of football fields.
Wow.
Even more alarming, some Chinese companies pay off local terrorist groups to protect their logging operations,
Damn.
with as much as 10% of their profits going to armed militants. This revenue stream nets terrorists nearly $2 million a month. The rosewood in northern Mozambique is...
That's interesting. I mean, I'm not an agriculturalist, but I've never seen literally tree woods cut with red wood like that. Crazy. I don't even think the redwood trees had that red in the middle.
Is internationally protected, but Chinese traders continue to smuggle it by bribing officials for logging permits. Corrupt Frelimo officials benefit from these transactions and see no incentive to stop them. At the same time, local workers endure harsh treatment. They earn just $67 a month
What?
and are often verbally or physically abused. It's no wonder Mozambicans resent Chinese businesses, viewing them as co-conspirators of corruption and ecological destruction. Locals rely on the land to survive, only to watch their forests vanish and resources drained by Chinese firms. Insurgents profit from the timber trade, intensifying conflict, and ordinary people's hatred grows.
Wow. So do you hear that? So that's why, see, America is fortunate because, luckily we have an okay climate to grow produce and all that. That's how the United States stays afloat, because we actually have resources and rich agriculture to, pretty much sell off our fruit, import, export, and everything else. And we have the seaports. That's why the West Coast and the East Coast are some of the most expensive places to live here in America, because of our ports. So the closer you live by water in America, the more you're going to pay to live there. So it all makes sense, because in some countries, the soil is just not good enough to really grow, or they just don't have the infrastructure to grow anything at all. Like, look, take Hawaii, for example. It's expensive. It's nice to be there, right? But they can't grow the produce that, let's say, California or the Midwest could grow. The main thing that grows in Hawaii is pineapple, sweet fruit. They have to get everything else imported because, there's not a lot of cows and chickens and everything for eggs. So all that's imported. So you're paying a little bit more to get all that. But back to the video.
Recent investigations reveal that between October 2023 and March 2024, 300 containers of redwood totaling 10,000 tons were seized in Beria port, valued at $18 million. The shipments were bound for China, with many lacking proper legal documentation. Ultimately, unscrupulous traders sacrificed Mozambique's ecology and livelihoods for profit, tarnishing the reputation of Chinese businesses. As opposition forces rise and public anger builds, Chinese nationals are labeled corrupt accomplices, leading to attacks and looting. It mirrors the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where resentment toward Chinese mining firms runs high. Crackdowns and mass arrests of Chinese workers no longer surprise anyone. For years, China has poured massive funds into Africa, building roads, bridges, and buildings under the banner of China-Africa Brotherhood. In reality, these ventures extract resources and expand political influence at the expense of Chinese taxpayers. While ordinary Chinese citizens struggle with long hospital queues and rising education costs, aid to Africa continues to flow without restraint. The recent anti-Chinese riots in Mozambique and the DRC have cast doubt on the strength of this brotherhood and left many in China feeling deceived and exploited. Some voices defend Chinese businesses, blaming local workers for being lazy and inefficient.
Wow.
But reality shows that arrogance and discrimination towards locals inevitably spark public backlash. Many Chinese firms exclusively hire Chinese workers, marginalizing or exploiting local labor, fueling discontent. Chinese aid projects are siphoned off by corrupt officials, leaving little for ordinary people. Scandals like the Chinese female companions policy, providing African students.
Wow. Nice and thick like the black man wants her. My. Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on. And that's another thing. A lot of Africans are marrying Chinese women too.
With scholarships and stipends have fueled domestic outrage. Often, the beneficiaries are the children of African elites who later join the cycle of power and wealth, while ordinary citizens remain impoverished and resentful. Seeing the riots and anti-Chinese sentiment in Mozambique, it's clear that similar crises are brewing across Africa, whether in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Kenya, Nigeria, or Tanzania. Those who benefit make fortunes, while the majority are left with nothing. The growing discontent among the majority is fueled.
So basically, these companies that are coming into the country pretty much aren't enough for the residents of the country for survival. They're still getting paid low wages. It's almost like working for Amazon, but just worse.
By the close ties between authorities and Chinese businesses. Moreover, Western powers are unlikely to miss the chance to curb China's influence in Africa, encouraging protests that paint China as the new colonialist. The most absurd part is that Chinese nationals in Mozambique thought that by helping the Chinese government support the ruling party, building infrastructure, and delivering equipment, they would receive protection. But when armed mobs came knocking, the embassy's response was dismissive. Either this is a local issue, handle it yourselves, or the foreign ministry line is busy. Even if someone managed to get through, the response was often, "We're not sure what's happening there." As desperate Chinese merchants posted videos pleading for help, public opinion in China erupted with sarcasm and ridicule. Big spender abroad, dead silent when it comes to protecting citizens. Wolf warrior diplomacy turns into turtle diplomacy when real wolves show up. These kinds of jokes have spread rapidly. Those with foreign passports booked flights immediately, while those holding Chinese passports had no choice but to endure the violence. Some could only joke bitterly, "If things get worse, I'll pretend to be Korean or Japanese. Maybe I'll get beaten less."
Did I really just hear that? You still gonna get your ass beat because they want to know why you there in their country. They figure you're a part of whatever's going on with the businesses and corruption from abroad.
As ridiculous as it sounds, it reflects the harsh reality. In some areas, Chinese nationals reportedly armed themselves, buying guns for self-defense. When mobs arrived, they were ready to fight back. This kind of self-rescue may work in the short term, but risks breaking local laws and escalating tensions further. In Africa, gunfights rarely end well. The locals knew the
Mercenary, he ready. Shit. I'm not saying that I'm into all this. I mean, I do like Battlefield and Call of Duty, but not over political shit. Just with the controller in my hand. Like, I'm not into the, let's take them to war. Nah. because it affects the citizens too. So I mean, having a bunch of guns and shooting everybody ain't really, that doesn't really solve much at the end of the day. But it's a good scare tactic though.
Terrain, and if things spiral out of control, Chinese nationals are at a severe disadvantage. But beyond arming themselves and sticking together, there seem to be few alternatives. Evacuation is dangerous. Armed groups lie in wait to rob Chinese merchants, seeing them as easy targets. Political resentment adds fuel to the fire, making escape as perilous as staying. The anger isn't limited to Mozambique. Videos from the Democratic Republic of the Congo show Chinese nationals being beaten, humiliated, and even tied up and mocked in public.
All right, education time real quick. For anybody that's Asian that's watching this video, understand that those are not our people, okay? If I was to show up, they're going to treat me the same way that they'll treat you. I'm American. Yeah, I'm black, I'm brown, whatever. But that doesn't automatically make me one of their people. No. They don't even like black Americans like that. So, you get it.
Locals hate the Chinese by nature? No, it's because they see no future, no respect.
He look like he ready to go to work though. My dude right here got a caulk gun right here. If you don't know what caulk is, it's pretty much the glue. It's what they use in construction, like when you're installing a bathtub and you want it to connect to the wall or another piece to the surface. You use the caulk and you put it down. It takes forever to dry. It takes about a day and a half or 2 days to dry. But anyway, you get it.
And lash out at the most visible scapegoat. Officials blame populist extremists and irrational mobs, but more reports point to Chinese businesses bribing officials, damaging the environment, and hiring armed groups to evict villagers and seize resources. Chinese workers dispatched to Africa have long learned to shut down operations during elections to avoid risk. Mobs make no distinction. Anyone can be dragged from their car and burned alive.
Shit.
A number of Chinese aid workers have lost their lives abroad.
Oh, no.
On October 13th, 2024, a Chinese professional and his wife working at a transmit site in Brazzaville in the Republic of Congo were shot during a robbery. His wife lost...
Look how they cheering. Damn. Yeah, that's the real world. Have you noticed that they keep this off CNN, Fox News, and everything? That's why I don't like the local news stations, because they don't tell what's really going on around the world. They only tell us what they want us to know. So when it comes to getting news, it's best to get it from social media. Yeah.
Lost her life instantly while he was wounded. The local government promised an investigation, but most know these cases rarely lead to real justice. A specialist named Jiang from Wanzhou district in Chongqing was fatally stabbed by robbers in Monrovia, Liberia. By the time she arrived at the hospital, she had lost too much blood. As for the many medical aid workers long stationed in Africa, countless have been robbed, held hostage, or infected with malaria and other diseases.
Damn.
In recent years, China has poured money into Africa, building ports, mining, and large-scale infrastructure. But looking back, the gap between the promised benefits for the people and the actual results is glaring. The average African citizen has gained little, while officials and Chinese businesses elites
push them out the window. Shit.
Public patience has its limits. Though riots may be temporarily suppressed by police and military force, history shows that such resentment and unrest tend to grow, ready to erupt again at any moment. What?
To my expats, this makes you think twice. I mean, all I see is a shit show in these African countries when it comes. I mean, the benefit was to help the citizens from abroad. The Chinese, these businesses were supposed to help the local economy in these African countries, but apparently it's not going so well. Everybody's pushing and shoving each other out of windows and shit. This looks like a shit show to me. I think I'll just stay here in America and travel to other countries to where we don't have to deal with shit like that. But yeah.
What comes next remains uncertain. Can the opposition seize power? Will the Chinese merchants who lost everything return home or seek opportunities in other African nations? Will an external power step in, turning Mozambique into another battleground for geopolitical influence? No one knows for sure. But one thing is clear.
And by the way, French is the local language in this country. So if you can't read or you thought it was Spanish, no, it's French, which is another European language like English. English, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. Yeah.
If China continues exploiting Africa under the guise of brotherhood, ignoring the suffering of local people, anti-Chinese violence, revenge, and conflict will only escalate.
Well, you heard him. Complete shit show. So those Chinese businesses coming into that country, it's just not working out too great. So I mean, the citizens are still struggling and the wages are too low working for those businesses. So what's the answer to this? Flock to America if you can. Or good luck escaping. Anyways, Kylie LaVale, let me know what you think of this. This was pretty interesting, you guys. I'll catch you on the next video. Once again, happy Monday. Salute.